Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending this special webinar on our Poppy Trail and Battlefield Tour with Senior Discovery Tours, featuring guest speaker Samantha Cowan. My name is Brianne, and I'm the branch manager of the London, Ontario office for Senior Discovery Tours. Please note, everyone has been muted to allow for the full enjoyment of this presentation. Should you have any questions at any time, please enter them into the Q&A section at either the bottom or the top of your screen, depending on your device. Once again, we have an opportunity for one lucky attendee to win a $100 gift certificate for future travel with Senior Discovery Tours. At the end of Samantha's presentation, I will ask a question based on the information in the webinar, and the first person to put the correct answer in the Zoom chat will be the lucky winner. Please stay tuned for this exciting opportunity. On our agenda today, we will briefly discuss our updated health and safety regulations in relation to COVID-19 and some of our exciting new rewards programs. Present our guest speaker, Samantha, who will take us on a virtual tour exploring the Poppy Trail Battlefield Tour. There will then be a question and answer period. Senior Discovery Tours is the leader in escorted group travel for the mature traveler, proudly Canadian owned for more than 45 years. We now offer over 200 tours and cruises, all with interesting itineraries, flexible pricing, great value, and quality. The health and safety of our clients and staff are of the utmost importance, and we are thrilled to report that we have been awarded the Safe Travel Stamp by the World Travel and Tourism Council. Vaccination against COVID-19 is required to participate in a Senior Discovery Tour, and proof of this must be submitted to our offices no later than 14 days prior to departure. We have updated our insurance policy to ensure you are covered for COVID-19 when traveling with us. Senior Discovery Tours is excited to launch 2 new programs, Discovery Rewards and Blue Sky Referrals. From exclusive travel items to discounts on future tours, this is an exciting way to get more out of every trip you take. Another amazing program is our Insider Club benefits. If you are part of a club or association, we will offer a 4% commission that will be paid directly to your club or association. To book a virtual presentation for your club, please contact us. Please rest assured that you can book your Senior Discovery Tours holiday with complete peace of mind. We will continue to be the travel industry leader by offering a refund policy that is far more flexible and generous than any of our tour operators. You may now cancel your tour for any reason up to 60 days prior to departure and receive back a full refund. Great news! The Canadian government has removed its general advisory against non-essential travel for Canadians who have been fully vaccinated for COVID-19. Our Canadian and international tours for 2022 are now open for booking. Our latest brochure, volume number 2, spring and summer tours and summer and fall cruises will be arriving to everyone on our mailing list in the next few weeks. To view or download the brochure, please visit our website. Each season, we like to include new and unique, exciting tour destinations. Our latest brochure features these incredible new tours. Now, on with the program. One of our Senior Discovery Tours' most impactful trips is our Poppy Trail Historical Battlefields Tour. In this webinar, we will be joined by Battlefield Tour expert Samantha Cowan and her colleagues, who will take us on a virtual tour to explore the sights and stories from this important journey. Samantha has many notable tours over the last 7 years. Some include traveling with our last surviving Canadian veterans in the liberation of Holland for the 70th anniversary, as well as her work with the Every Man Remembered program, an effort to reach every Canadian family with a connection to the DEP raid. Battlefield Tours of Canada has escorted Canadian veterans and their families for over 30 years, and it is the longest running Battlefield Tour operation in Canada. Hi, Samantha.
Hello, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
with me one sec. I'm just going to share my screen with you.
Thank you for joining us.
So great to be here. Bear with me. All right. Can you all see that? I think so. First off, I want to say thank you to Senior Discovery Tours for having me. It's so great to be here with friends again. I love it so much. Hi, everyone. Hello. My name is Sam. I'm the Outbound Operations Manager at the Battlefield Tours. I write, host, and guide military history tours for organizations across Canada and the US. I also host various webinars like this. And I also host the Battlefield Tours blog and the Battlefield Tours YouTube channel. And yes, the Battlefield Tours is a Canadian organization. We've been around since 1986. We started out by escorting veterans and their families back to the battlefields of Europe and Asia. But today our team does a lot more than just tours. We dedicate our whole lives to Canada's battlefield history, and we contribute to several podcasts and television shows like Dan Carlin's Blueprint for Armageddon, World War II TV, The Old Front Line, and of course the History Channel. And you might notice there's a few familiar faces in our wonderful guiding community. There's Glenn Edmonds, our head battlefield guide, right there in the corner down here. That's Canadian history historian and professor David O'Keefe. You may know him from War Junk on the History Channel, or Dieppe Uncovered was another documentary he's really well known for. And that over there is my dad. And Ian Cowan, he's also on our team. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have the drive, the experience, and the passion that I have today. So a big thank you to him. But I'm not here to talk about the team. We're here to talk about the Poppy Trail Tour, which for years now, our team has had the honor and privilege of guiding. And I just have to say that I've grown to really love the travelers on this program. I love the Senior Discovery Tours team. I've come to cherish you all as friends. So it is great to be here talking about a subject that we love so much and a tour that we love so much. It really is a wonderful program. In my agenda today, I want to bring up some of my highlights. I couldn't list them all. Otherwise, I would say every day is an incredible day on this tour program. So I tried my best to pick three. Luckily, I have some friends joining me as well today. Jean-Pierre, the program manager at Vimy Ridge and Beaumont Hamel Memorial Park, is joining us from Vimy. He actually lives in Vimy, France, and works between these two important Veteran Affairs Canada sites. So it's great that he's here. Carolyn, dear friend and all around wonderful human, Carolyn is joining us. She's a past traveler on the Poppy Trail. She traveled with us in the fall of 2019, and we've continued to stay in touch and become great dear friends. And so it's great to have her here and share what her experience on this tour was like. And lastly, we have Annick from the Flanders Fields Museum in the heart of Flanders Fields. She'll be sharing some information about the museum and the legacy of John McCrae, who wrote the famous poem in Flanders Fields. We'll end with a plethora of resources for you to get your hands on before I pass it back on to Senior Discovery for questions. So I've chosen three highlights. I wanted to talk about Normandy first, because I think what this tour gives you is a real in-depth understanding of D-Day and the Normandy campaign. And that discovery doesn't start in Normandy. You really start to get that appreciation early on when you're in the UK, in Portsmouth, in Brookwood. That's where you'll get the full appreciation for the planning and the buildup. Then you'll take that channel crossing. You'll see what that channel crossing is like. And I just have to say that D-Day in and of itself is a mind-blowing operation. This was the largest armada ever assembled in human history, 175,000 men. Can you think about that? Transported across the channel within the first 24 hours. That's not to mention the 1,500 tanks, the 20,000 other types of vehicles in that first 24 hours. But what in human history, when you're doing an amphibious raid throughout the dawn of time, the hard thing about an amphibious landing is that, okay, you've got to move your army across open water and then get them onto enemy territory, but then you have to supply them. And they supplied these men for months and months and months. Oh, I did want to show you this house. This is the Canada House, by the way. And that very famous picture, if I can just go back to that very famous picture of the Canada House. Let's see if I can get to it. Because there's a famous picture of the Canadians landing on the beach, and they land in front of Canada House, and that house is still standing today. So we'll get to see that house in real life, and there is a real family still living there, and they have honored the Canadian story for almost 80 years now. So that's really quite special. But if I can go back for a moment to these supplying the troops when they get there. On D-Day, they had to ship all that men and equipment, but then they also have to ship over pipelines for oil. They have to install whole harbor docks. And that's this picture here that we're seeing. I think you can't truly appreciate D-Day without understanding this. Imagine they built these harbor docks, whole harbor docks, in total secrecy around parts of the UK. And then they towed them across the ocean and installed them in the sea on the other side under enemy fire. Incredible. Unbelievable that these docks are still here. They call them the Mulberry Harbors. You'll see them on this tour. They're incredibly impressive. And in Aromanche, we explore the beaches, and you can go amongst the ruins of these harbor docks. Who knows how long they'll last? But they've certainly lasted almost 80 years. But as you can see from this picture, that these docks are slowly sinking into the sea. So this isn't something that we'll be able to see forever. But I also wanted to mention the D-Day stories. Some of our team members have worked with the vets of the First World War, but my experience is with the Second, and their stories and experiences have been invaluable to me. That's what changed my life. And it's from these experiences we've carried through in our research as well. So Raymond Farley is just one of many different stories that you'll hear on the tour. I also wanted to bring attention in Normandy to the Juno Beach Center, Canada's representation on Juno Beach. This museum represents Canada throughout the war. It was founded by the D-Day veterans themselves, most notably Garth Webb, and it's a fantastic museum, all Canadian staff as well. So wanted to mention that. The next highlight on my list is the seaside resort town of Dieppe. We have a powerful connection to this place. 5,000 Canadians went that morning, and in less than a few hours, our casualty rate hit 72%. It is one of the worst days in Canadian military history. And Dieppe, for me, is the perfect example of why I think a battlefield tour is necessary, why it's imperative that we visit these places, because Dieppe is something that we can read about and talk about, but you can't understand what happened and why until you're standing there in real life. After that, everything about this moment in our history makes sense. And another thing is to recognize the impact that Dieppe has had on the world. It's studied the world over. And Dieppe today is a beautiful town, seaside resort town. They've honored and cherished the Canadians so much, the citizens of Dieppe. And you can tell that by the Canadian Commonwealth Cemetery. It's meticulously kept. It's a rather unique cemetery, by the way, out of all the cemeteries in the Commonwealth War Graves. You'll find out why on the tour. I won't give that away. And there's another great example of just things, this visceral experience. You fully understand the connection to Dieppe when you get there in real life. We work with the families of Dieppe. These are some of the incredible families from the Every Man Remembered program. And it's an organization that was started by one of the Dieppe kids. And they are retracing every family with a connection to Dieppe. So please, anyone watching this, if you have a connection to this story, if you have a connection to Dieppe and you haven't heard of the Every Man Remembered program, please, please, please get in touch, because it's a very important, wonderful project. And again, going back to the impact of Dieppe, out of those 5,000 Canadians, 2,000 of those Canadians that morning, in a matter of hours, became prisoners of war and were prisoners of war throughout the entire rest of the war. They didn't get liberated from their Polish camps until 1945, after they had to submit to the death march. So you can imagine 2,000 Canadians living among us had this crazy experience, and that has reverberated through their families. So now it's so important for us to connect with these families and make this connection with what their family members may have gone through that they had no idea about. The Somme is the last of my three highlights here, where we explore some of the First World War battlefields and tunnels. It's one of the last highlights I want to talk about. We go to the Musée d'Arbres, which takes us through the tunnels underneath the basilica. We'll see the Loch Nagar crater, which is pretty incredible. So there's Musée d'Arbres there. We're going under the First World War tunnels under the basilica. There's Loch Nagar crater. It is the one of the largest non-nuclear man-made craters in the world, still exists today. But of course, perhaps the most incredible part of this one day is visiting Beaumont Hamel Memorial Park. And it's one of the largest preserved battlefields in the world. If it wasn't for the dedication, the sacrifice, and the legacy of the Newfoundlanders, researchers around the world, students around the world, archaeologists, historians, they wouldn't be able to see such a rich, real life resource from a century ago. And it's here that you will find the most shocking statistic in the history of warfare. Nearly 800 men from Newfoundland and Labrador got up and out of their trenches on the morning of July 1st, 1916. 800 men. And only 68 showed up for roll call the next morning. It's a place that means so much to the Newfoundlanders, and they lost so many loved ones in this small piece of area that despite being a nearly destitute little country, they purchased this land from France to have in perpetuity, to preserve for the world to see. And today the park is managed and run by Veteran Affairs Canada. How special is that? You go there and you're first greeted by Canadian students. As mentioned, though, I did mention that Jean-Pierre is here with us today, and he's the programs manager in Europe, and he can tell us a lot more about both this site and Vimy Ridge. So let me put a spotlight on Jean-Pierre to have him join us. Bear with me where there we go. I found him. Let's get him to start his video, and I will put a spotlight on him, pin him there. Cool. I think I did that right. Jean-Pierre, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
We did it. We did it. So I've timed the video to this for 5 minutes. So when it switches, we'll know. But first of all, thank you for joining us from Vimy today. And I was hoping you could tell us what you do at Vimy and what people can expect when they come here.
Sure. So thanks for having me. It's a great opportunity to reach out and talk to folks back home in Canada. I'm part of a small team. And as you mentioned, Veterans Affairs Canada is the department that takes care of not only Beaumont and Vimy, but also 12 other sites across northern France, Belgium, and the UK as well. And as a department, we're a small team responsible for the maintenance of these sites, but also in terms of the visitor experience. So our two national historic sites, are only two national historic sites that are outside of Canada, Vimy and Beaumont Hamel, both have visitor centers and guides. We have programming that goes on throughout the year that people can experience. But essentially, it's our role and responsibility to make sure that people have the ability to come over and to find out about our shared history in the Somme and in the Pas-de-Calais with Vimy, with Beaumont Hamel, to find out more about what happened on July 1st and what happened on April 9th, but as well Canada's implication during the First World War. So we kind of play a role of ambassadors in a sense. We allow people to discover a little bit more about Canada before the war, after the war, of course, in terms of commemoration, even up to what we're doing today in terms of Canada's implications around the world.
Absolutely. It's such a profound impact for so many, not just Canadians, but just anyone who goes to Vimy, anyone to come to this site in real life. How would one prepare? How would you like Canadians to prepare themselves for coming to this site?
Well, one of the great ways is, and to keep in mind, is that if you're a Newfoundlander, you might have a link with Beaumont Hamel. There might be a name, a family name, or a family member that's not written on the memorial. And the same thing goes for Vimy. It's important to remember that Vimy is not just about the Battle of Vimy Ridge, but also that the monument that is there is dedicated to all Canadians that served during the First World War. So it's really Canada's national First World War memorial. There are 11,285 names that are on that memorial. So there might be a family member that's on there. We like to, let people know that one of the great ways to discover the site is through a family connection. And if you don't necessarily have a family connection to the memorial or the cemeteries that are there, then just taking the time to read up on what it means. The monument itself is so imposing. There's so many different things related to this monument that there are sculptures, there are just the stone that was used to build this memorial. There's a story behind absolutely everything. And sites like Vimy and Beaumont Hamel have so many different features, from the trenches that we have, the preserved trenches at Vimy, the battlefields at Beaumont Hamel, the craters at Vimy. There is so much information that having a guided tour is amazing, but being able to have that background information, understanding the lay of the land before setting foot on the sites is a must. So reading up, catching up on blogs or videos or whatsoever, but just learning a little bit more about the battles that happened there, but also Canada's implication in the First World War is a must.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you. I didn't even tell him to say that, you guys. Thank you. It's important. Can quickly, before we let you go, on to our next presenter, by the way, if you want to get ready, is Carolyn. But JP, could you let us know what is going on next year? Is there any exhibits you should let us know about? Anything at Vimy and Beaumont Hamel that we should know?
Yeah, sure. So Vimy in 2022 will actually be the 105th anniversary of the Battle of Arras, and Battle of Vimy Ridge is part of the Battle of Arras effort that was pushed in 1917. So we're gearing up towards something that should be interesting in terms of programming for the days around April 9th. Without getting into a lot of details, but I can definitely say that there is something that is brewing in the pot right now in terms of April 9th for sure. But of course, like I said, something around those days, that day as well. So for us, it's important to have a site that is connected to our surrounding communities. We're very lucky to be situated near Arras and right near Lens as well. And we've got great neighbors, Vimy, Télu, Givenchy, all these little villages around the main site at Vimy are very well connected with us. And we want to make sure that we have events and so forth for that. And then moving forward in the rest of the year, of course, there's a lot more happening. And I don't want to take time for Carolyn, but there is programming, of course, that is renewed throughout the year. So exhibitions and so much more.
So excited, very excited to come back and see you in real life. And before and thank you, JP. Thank you so much for coming and being here. We can't wait to see you again in real life and give everyone big hugs and just to be on the ground again. So thank you, sir. Thanks for joining. Much appreciated. And guys, if you want any information, we'll be happy to offer more information when we are at the end of the presentation. I'll have so many resources for you to get started, all sorts of stuff. But we'll head on to Carolyn. Thank you so much. Hi, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm well, Sam, and thank you for inviting me to share my memories of the tour.
Yes, thank you.
I want to tell you, my late husband, Bill Wrigley, always wanted to see the sites of World War I and World War II in Europe. And I wanted to see the places that my late ex-father-in-law, Fred Seaman, had told me about, remembering his role in the Great War after signing up at age 15. Of course, he was underage. And this tour fulfilled all of our expectations and a lot more. The tour manager, Elizabeth, and tour guide, Sam, literally took care of all of our needs from the moment we left home until we returned. We saw amazing and really moving sites related to World War I and II across 3 countries, England, France, and Belgium. And it was hard to believe how much we packed into a 15-day tour, and yet we never felt rushed, and we had time to explore sites on our own and reflect on our own personal connections to the places we visited. Every site, every place was memorable, as evidenced by the 426-page album of our trip that I put together after our return. However, a few of these stand out because of personal connections. Fred Seaman had talked regularly about his experiences at Wipers, his name for Ypres. I wish that I could have told him that I was standing at the Menin Gate in Ypres at the nightly ceremony to remember those who died defending her. And he was wounded twice and sent back to England and came back twice to continue in the war. In the Flanders Fields Museum in Ypres, we found the names of members of Bill's extended Wrigley family who died during the war. Bill was overwhelmed at standing next to Canada House near Juno Beach, knowing its history and remembering that his father's boat had been one of the crafts used to sail from England and rescue soldiers during D-Day. We were in awe of the Vimy Monument and the memories of the people who fought and died there. We were surprised by the sheep that seemed to be everywhere and their significance as an early warning system for the still dangerous ordinances ever moving closer to the surface under the grass where the sheep grazed. We were amazed by the maze of tunnels under Arras where the residents took shelter. And we were humbled to stand on the spot at Essex Farm Cemetery where John McCrae wrote in Flanders Fields. Although I'd read about the wars and seen movies portraying them, nothing could have prepared me for the feelings that I experienced, standing where the battles were fought, seeing the conditions that soldiers endured, and appreciating the odds against survival. It was overwhelming to read the stories of soldiers, some no more than children, killed in battle. Bill and I agreed that this was truly a life-changing experience. And if we'd known that it would be our last tour together, we would have not changed anything. Thanks, Sam. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. That was so great. That was so beautiful. And I love you so much. And I didn't think mutual. I would cry. I wasn't supposed to cry.
Me too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. You have no idea how much that means to all of us. And you're an incredible resource before, during, and after the tour. It's really great. It's really great I'm so lucky to have met you. And this is what I'm saying. Like, it's just so lovely to meet all of you. And it's these relationships that I think are really important. And I can't thank you enough for all the resources that you send and that Bill sent. And it's just, thank you so much. That was really sweet.
Thank you.
I will move on to, thanks again, and I will move on to Anik. Anik's on the screen, and Piatello. Hello, they are saying hello today from Ypres. They are in Ypres, the city of peace. And not only are they in Ypres, in the heart of Flanders Fields themselves, but they are inside the cloth hall right now, which, for any Canadian who has been to their Legion in Canada, you will have in your Legion, without a doubt, a picture of the cloth hall. It is a famous, famous, famous site, and it's so great to have you joining us from Flanders. I'm going to just put up on the screen very quickly, there we go, some information about the museum. But Anik, maybe you can get us started by telling us, what is the In Flanders Fields Museum and what is the cloth hall for someone who wouldn't know?
Okay, so the cloth hall was like the largest unreligious, not religious building in the Middle Ages. So it's really an emblematic building in the town. The tower stands out, the belfry tower stands out for wherever you are. And so this cloth hall was, as the whole town was, completely destroyed during the First World War. But then the people from Ypres, together with their local government, decided to rebuild this fantastic building as it was before the war. So when I come into work, because the research center, that's where I work, of course, the research center very much connected to the museum, is in that building, is in a wing of the cloth hall. And so for me, it's of course very, yeah, as a historian, very important and very nice to have my workspace in this building.
So it's such a treasure trove for everyone, that building, and it's in the Grote Markt. That's some images of the Grote Markt. It's such a beautiful place to stay and be. This is where the last post ceremony is done. This is where the first last post ceremony ever was performed, and this is where John McCrae wrote the poem In Flanders Fields, which is what the In Flanders Fields Museum is based off of. And this whole area, the Ypres salient, is a really important place, not just for Canadians, but the world. And this is where the Menin Gate is also based, where the last post ceremony is played every single night at 8 o'clock. This is Essex Farm right here. This is the cemetery where John McCrae wrote that poem, just so close to Ypres. And for anyone listening, where we're staying in Flanders is in Ypres itself. So that's also really quite special. Annick, I've got some wonderful stuff about what's going on in Flanders Fields Museum. What can we expect next year? What's going on?
Well, first of all, I would like to emphasize that this year, so this winter, we used the time to really realize a major upgrade of the museum. So it's like a sort of facelift that that will move us to the next 6-7 years of the museum. And we realized some important novelties that let's emphasize a couple of them. First of all, audio guides. So we introduced the audio guide, where you can, if you want, go in 1 hour and a half, it would lead you through the museum. But of course, if you want to get more information, grasp more information, you can go in depth. They're like, let's say 25 to 30 points where you can really go in depth on a couple of subjects. And for the families having kids with them, so the Flanders Fields Museum is not anymore for only adults, but you can also take your grandchildren or children with you. And we have a special tour, an audio guide tour for those younger ones. A second large and major upgrade was the personal stories. And I heard here a lot on the personal stories, but as you know, in the museum, we focus a lot. And for instance, if a Canadian family or a Canadian relative comes into the research center, they deposit the story. We of course, if necessary, do some extra research. And then if all goes well, like in 2-3 days, we can upload the story with the photographs, and then the next visitors can read the story of that particular person. So it enables us to be very flexible, and I have my bracelet on. So with this bracelet that you get at the entrance, you can read the 2 personal stories throughout the museum. But the flexibility has really enhanced a lot. And then, of course, the third display I want to emphasize, or I want to focus on, is that of John McCrae. we ordered a very aesthetic presentation of the poem to a stenographer, and not only a very aesthetic presentation of the poem, but also it's accompanied with an original piece of music, which and is sung by a choir or by some some musicians, some singers. And it's in the museum. So it has been created on the 3rd of May 2015 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the poem, and it has been broadcasted live, or how do you say, streamed live with Canada on that day, with the house where John McCrae was born. I'm sorry, I'm not an English speaker by origin, but I do my best.
You're doing better than any of our Flemish.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, het spikkedankt. Is that how you say thank you very much?
Ah, yes, that is yes. Can I just say one more thing? So next year we have 2 major exhibitions on. If people would like to travel to Ypres and to the Flanders Fields Museum, and the first one is on the missing. So I think lots of you know that a lot of Canadians went missing, like 6,500 here in the Ypres area, and they are all on the Menengate. And we focus with this temporary exhibition on the missing. And one of the guys we are focusing on is a private of a Newfoundland regiment, Private Lambert. And we have just made a film on how he was discovered a couple of years ago, how we talked to the family, how by DNA he was identified. So that will be presented in this temporary exhibition.
Oh, I am so looking forward to that. That is so wonderful and I think what you guys do very, very well, more than any other place that I've ever been to, is connecting those personal stories. You make it so much about the visitor instead of what you have to present. You're very keen on hearing these family histories and showing people how they can discover their own family history. That's what I've taken away from the Flanders Fields Museum. The bracelets that you get at the beginning, you scan them, you put in the information about where you're from, what town you were from, and when you scan your bracelet around exhibits after that, it'll bring up information that is relevant to where you're from, which is so beautiful. So it's a two-way street with the Flanders Fields Museum. And to anyone watching on the Poppy Trail, we stay at the Hotel Ariane, which is right around the corner from the Flanders Fields Museum. So if you do
the best hotel in town.
It's the best hotel. It's a wonderful, the staff there are wonderful. They give me a Christmas card every year. I love them so. So thank you, Annick and Piet. Thank you so much for joining. It's so great. I can't wait to see you guys in real life too. That Belgian beer, the fries,
we'll have one together if you come over.
Absolutely, we will. I know just the place too. So okay. Thank you, Annick. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks again.
Bye.
And to anyone watching, it's beautiful, really, this commercial here that the Flanders Tourist Board put together. And I'll have links to that as well. There's some really, really great footage there. Coming to the end, though, before we finish off, I do want to show you that we do have some resources available. So at the beginning of your tour, or before we even travel on the tour, and this is inside the cloth hall, by the way. I just wanted to put in this image before we said goodbye to Annick, because it's such a beautiful inside and out, that cloth hall. And a part of the German Reparation Act was that the German army had to rebuild the cloth hall, and indeed Ypres, brick by brick by brick. Also, very quickly, just a little bit of an orientation, because a lot of people can be a little confused by the word Ypres for such a famous, world famous town, city, I should say. There's two ways you can spell Ypres. I put them on the screen there. There's the Flemish way, I-E-P-E-R, and then the French way, Y-P-R-E-S. I don't have time to go through the history as to why, but it is an interesting history all through Western Flanders. Just a little sneaky FYI for you if you're seeing it spelt different ways and you don't know why. But it goes by the name, the City of Peace. Of course, the British didn't know how to pronounce it when they first got to the Ypres salient, so they just pronounced it Wipers. You might know of the Broadway performance, The Wipers Times, that was performing in London. The Wipers is, anytime you hear that, they mean Ypres. We all like to mispronounce our words anyways. But as mentioned, you get a booklet before you travel on the tour, because it's so important with this type of programming that you have resources before, during, and after. Sometimes a lot of the resources won't make sense to you until you've kind of seen the place and kind of got your head around it. So feel free to use it at any time, but you do get a ton of resources. So you get a podcast list, as you can see here. We have suggested reading for you that you can take before, during, or after the program, and lots of different suggested readings based on the category of the place that we're seeing. Maps and infographics to use, again, before, but mostly during your program. They can be very, very helpful to see. And of course, we have a YouTube channel. You can go to the Battlefield Tours /subscribe, and you can check out our YouTube footage, because we have a lot of behind the scenes footage, tour footage, interviews with historians, guides, all sorts of stuff. So there's the link there if you're interested. We do a weekly newsletter. I'll put that back on the screen just for a moment. But yeah, we have a weekly newsletter that goes out. And just as Anik was talking about the finding missing in Ypres and reinterring missing and DNA. And I mean, the Canadian impact, especially in the First and Second World War in France and Belgium, is pretty huge. So I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in kind of having your finger on the pulse when it comes to what they're discovering every day in Flanders or in the Somme, definitely go to the battlefieldtours.com/subscribe, and you can get connected with our community to kind of learn more about that. And lastly, just to let you know, a portion of your tour program does go to support our veterans. The Battlefield Tours is a huge, huge, huge supporter in military health. Our military health matters. It's a public issue. It's something we should all be supporting, especially with some difficult times to come, especially with BC's, either it's raining or it's on fire. So our military health is important. It's going to be more and more important as the years go on. So there's 3 different organizations your tour supports: the Wounded Warriors Canada, the Juno Beach Center Foundation, and the Legion's Poppy Fund. So keep that in mind. And that's it. That was everything I wanted to blur at everybody. Thank you so much for having me again. And I'll pass it back on to Senior Discovery.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you to you and JP and Carolyn and Nick. Yeah, you guys were all wonderful. So much history. It was just an excellent presentation. Thank you. So just to let everyone know who's watching, the next offering of this is going to be in May of 2022. So you can check out our website or our brochure for further details on that. So we're now going to enter our question and answer period. If you have a question, you can enter it in the question and answer, the Q&A box, and I'll pass it on to Samantha. So we have had one question come in, and we have a passenger asking if they can join as volunteers to help out the tourists.
As volunteers to help out tourists. I'm not too sure how. I mean, there are definitely different volunteer opportunities on the battlefields. The Talbot House, for example, in Poppering in Ypres, just very close to Ypres, they are always looking for wardens. You do get lodging with them, but you are making teas, coffees, and being the greeter at Talbot House, so they desperately need that. The Passchendaele Museum is always looking for volunteer researchers in their archives. So if you're willing to travel, there's certainly volunteer opportunities that I know of that we always are dealing with. For us at the battlefield tours itself, man, we would love to have volunteers. Is it a possibility? Not really, especially if we're overseas. Sometimes there's a bit of a insurance woes about that and that kind of thing, but happy to pass along to people who truly need it on the battlefields. There's lots of things to do.
Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of our passengers on your tours, they have a lot to contribute to this, obviously. So it's probably pretty nice for them to be able to share their information. Moving along to the walking, that tends to be a big question. It's how much walking is involved. Is it very strenuous? Do we have to stand for long periods of time? Things like that.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, not really. There's not a lot of walking. It is very much up to you. We will be walking a fair bit and sometimes on uneven ground, as you can imagine, but we do have whisper guides wherever we go. So you'll be able to hear the guide speaking, even if you want to keep moving or take a resting place. We can walk up to 1 kilometer at times, but that instance only occurs a few times in the tour. And also, if you do want to walk further afield, you are encouraged, and we do give those options.
Yeah, those whispers really help with sort of wandering off from the group and still knowing where you're at and stuff.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Yeah. You did mention that we will be crossing the channel. And how long is that crossing exactly?
About 5 hours, 45 minutes. I'll say.
Perfect.
Sometimes it's a little longer, sometimes it's a little shorter, but yeah.
Great. And is it a smooth crossing, or shall we be prepared for a little bit of choppy weather?
That's a good question. I would say always be prepared. However, I haven't found it too choppy in my lifetime. But that's not to say that on a really stormy day, it can get really choppy. I mean, I definitely have people that I work with that remember choppy days where it can be real rough. So I would say just be prepared. Know that it is a big, beautiful ferry with lots of conveniences inside. Staying in the middle of the boat will really help out in those kind of situations.
Yeah. Okay, great. And in reference to the guides, are the guides on this tour, are they mostly Canadian? Do we employ local people? How does that work?
Yes. So you will always have a Canadian guide. Our battlefield team, we're all full-time in Canadian military history. So that's a really important thing to mention. However, local guides in every single place that we're at is so important. So even though you'll have a Canadian guide throughout your journey, in France and Belgium specifically, so many opportunities to meet local guides that we work with along the way.
Awesome. Great. Another question. Do we have free time in the towns that we're visiting? Like not necessarily in these battlefields, but in the towns that we're staying in, is there free time allotted there for the passengers to sort of wander?
Absolutely. I think it's really important to get that time by yourself to let it all sink in and explore things on your own. So there's a few nights where we don't have dinners included, and you can go off and explore all the wonderful restaurants. Every town we're staying in is very centrally located, except for Normandy, but still lots of time to explore. As Carolyn said, it does seem very fast-paced because we're jamming a lot into these days, but you always have time to relax and you always have time to explore these places on your own.
Great. Another question was, do we see any of these sites in the evening or at night?
Yes, there's a few nights. Menin Gate is the big one. At the end of our journey together, we actually participate in the last post ceremony. So that takes place at 8 o'clock at night. So we have an earlier dinner that night, and then we go straight to the ceremony. Apart from that, you don't have to worry about going to any battlefields at night. A lot of them are dark sky compliant, so you won't be able to see anything. But there's a few nights where we are walking to our dinner, and you get to see, like in Arras, you get to see that beautiful Grand Place Square light up at night as you walk home and things like that.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Also, during the tour, obviously we see quite a bit throughout the days and stuff. How early do we start in the morning? Is it, super early, or do we have, some time to get ourselves ready? How does that work?
That's a good question. And we really try to start the day at 9. Some days will be a little later. I mean, it really just depends. The spring and the fall are different seasonality. I'm thinking of one museum in particular where we do have to wait until 10 o'clock until it opens, but that's in the fall. So we try to start the days at 9. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Another question. It says here, in 2018, the Vimy Ridge Center was unavailable as work was being done. Have they completed it, and is a visit to the tunnels planned for the tour?
Yes. So the interpretive center is open. I remember 2017 and 2018 well. It was very difficult with the interpretation center closed for so long. But if you've been to Vimy before, like back in the 80s and 90s, it was a small little, like almost like a trailer that they had set up, like a mobile home with the interpretive center. So anyone who hasn't seen the new interpretation center yet, get prepared to be blown away. It is a beautiful building. They're always changing the exhibits in there, and it is all open.
Awesome. So be the first to be there.
Yes. And the tunnels too. You'll have many, many opportunities to explore tunnels on this program.
Perfect. So all in all, I guess, what should our clients do? Like, what should one do to actually prepare for a battlefield tour? How should they prepare for this beforehand?
My number one is find out what your family history is. That's my number one. If I had a nickel for any time someone's halfway through a tour thinking that they had a great uncle, maybe, what breaks my heart is if someone doesn't know their family history, even just a little bit goes a long way. We can help you a lot out when you're on the tour, but just to know if you have any connection to any of these stories is important. Look through the resource book we give you before the tour goes, and, connect with us. All of our guides, we're so active, like any of us, you can send us a message on Facebook or send us an email. We're so connected, and it's so important to keep sharing those resources. So get involved as soon as you can, because the information is overflowing, and it'll take several lifetimes to go through it all,
Wow. Thank you again so much. Such a great presentation. I love the work that you guys are doing, and that you really involve yourselves in the tours and help everyone get prepared ahead of time. So thank you for everything you do, and thank you for that beautiful presentation. It was fantastic.
I can't thank you guys enough, because you guys are awesome, but also thank you to my 3 guests that joined me today, Annick, Carolyn, and Jean-Pierre. It was just so great to have people, friends again. Yay.
All right, well, we'll say goodbye to you for now. Maybe we'll see you in May, though.
Yay.
Yes, so we appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brianne.
Thank you. You can continue to enter your questions into the Q&A box. We'll do our best to get them answered for you, and if we can't answer them, we will pass them along. So now I will be asking the question for your chance to win a $100 future travel gift certificate with Senior Discovery Tours. So the first person to place the answer in the Q&A box will be the lucky winner. and the winner will be announced at the end of the presentation. So please stay with us. So the question is, how did the Allies pronounce Ypres? Once again, the question is, how did the Allies pronounce Ypres? So as the holiday season approaches, we will resume our webinars in January of 2022. So don't miss out on our next exciting webinar taking place on January 26th, 2022, featuring Puglia, Italy with expert tour manager Suzanne Marchington. Be sure to subscribe to our e-newsletter on our website to receive a free Zoom invite directly in your inbox. Stay tuned for details regarding upcoming webinars on our social media. We would like to wish everyone a very safe and happy holiday season. You can follow us on all social media platforms. These addresses can be found on our website. So now we're going to announce the winner. And the winner is Diana Simpson. You are the lucky winner of a $100 future travel voucher with Senior Discovery Tours. We will be in touch with you shortly to claim your prize. And the answer for all of you was wipers. We would like to once again extend our appreciation to all of you for joining us today, and we wish you a joyous holiday season. We hope to see you again soon. Have a great afternoon.